G'day and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we will learn how to make the half double crochet spiral hat. This project is really great for beginners, so let's get started on the lesson. Supplies we're going to need is some yarn. I've got worsted weight, which is equivalent to 10 ply. You could also use double knit, sports weight or 8 ply. I have a crochet hook to go with my yarn. It normally recommends an eye or a 5.5mm crochet hook, but I have very loose tension, so I'm actually going to be using a 5mm or a H size hook. Going to need a pair of scissors, and if you watch my videos all the time you'll know the last ones I had were blunt, and these are a new pair, so they're nice and sharp. We have a yarn needle with a very big eye. It makes it a lot easier to thread our ends in. And we're going to need a stitch marker. You can use a professional stitch marker, you can use a bobby pin. For this hat I found it easier to use like a long piece of yarn, and you'll see why we need the long piece of yarn in the video, and it's probably about 12 inches or 30 centimeters long. But like I said, you can use a stitch marker if you want to. We will also need a calculator, and you'll also need a tape measure. So putting all that aside, I'm going to be starting with a magic ring. You could also use chain 4 and join with a slip stitch, but I'm going to be using a magic ring for this hat. So there's plenty of ways to make a magic ring. The easiest way I've found is I just grab the short piece in my left hand, or you could do it in your right hand if you're left-handed. Wrap it around your fingers. So we've got a loop or a circle. And then just holding the circle like that, I've put my yarn on my hand. I'm still holding where the circle joins at the top. Putting my hook into the center of the yarn. Grabbing yarn, pulling through. And I do a chain 1 just to secure that into the loop. So now you can let go of the loop, it's not going to come undone because you've got your chain 1 to secure it there. We are going to be using the half double crochet stitch, and for the half double crochet we start with 10 stitches in the middle, and I'm just pulling the long piece of yarn there just to make my circle a little bit easier to work with. So we're not counting this first one as a stitch. So half double crochet is wrapping our yarn, so putting the yarn around your needle, going into the center. If you've used the chain 4 and join, you're going to go into the center of your circle. Pulling up like that. You've got 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3. Do that again, yarning over, going into the center of the circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. I'll show you one more time. Yarn over, go into the loop, so it's into the center there. Yarn over, pull up, so you're pulling through the loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. So altogether we need 10 stitches, so that's 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And always go and check back just to make sure, because it's really quick. There's not many stitches there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, and 10. Excellent. I have 10 stitches. And most times when we make a hat, if we're using the double crochet stitch, we join at the end of each row. So we would join with a slip stitch up here. But in this hat, we're not going to. And this is where our trusty yarn, piece of yarn comes in, our long piece, or our stitch marker. What we can do now is also pull on the center loop if you've made your magic ring, just to close up the center here. Hole disappears. So into the first stitch, you can count back if you need to see which stitch it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So that is my first stitch there. So we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, going through both loops. You've got 2 loops on your hook. I just realised that my crochet hook goes in my yarn. So we're going to pull up a loop and then pull through. What we want to do is grab our stitch marker or our piece of yarn. So if you've got a stitch marker, you're going to put it through this stitch here, and you're also going to do the same with your piece of yarn. So grabbing your piece of yarn, just putting it over the top of the crochet hook and then pulling through. And you won't need to tie it off if it's quite long, because it will get trapped in the stitch. We need to put 2 stitches in that first stitch, so yarning over, going back into the same stitch, pulling through. And in every stitch around, until we get back to our stitch marker, we're going to work 2 stitches into the same one. So yarning over, going into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, so that's 1, that's 2. Into the next stitch, we're going to work 2 half double crochets, into every stitch around we're going to be working 2 half double crochets. Once we get back around to the beginning, we should have 20 stitches around the outside. And when we get to our stitch marker, so it's the stitch with the marker hanging out of it, what we can do is, with the yarn, we're just going to pull that to the back. If you've got a stitch marker, you're going to put it into the next stitch. So we're going to do a half double crochet into the stitch, and then if you're using this sort of stitch marker, you're going to place it in the top there. What we need to do now is work another row of increase, and we're going to be working an increase into every second stitch. So the first one has 1 half double crochet because we've already done that one, and into the next stitch, because it's every second, we're going to work 2 double crochets, 2 half double crochets, and this is counted as an increase because we've got 2 stitches into the same stitch. Into the next stitch, work 1 half double crochet, and into the next one, work 2 half double crochets. Into the next one, work 1 half double crochet. Into the next one, because it's every second, it's 2 half double crochets, sorry. And into every stitch until we get back to here, we're going to repeat that around. So we've just done 2 into that one, so it's 1 into the next, 2 into the next one. So repeat that around, working an increase in every second stitch. When we get back to the beginning, so we've got our mark stitch here, we end on an increase. So what we're going to do is grab our stitch marker and then make sure you're grabbing the right piece, pull that to the front. Into the next stitch, we're going to work 1 half double crochet, And then if you're using this kind of stitch marker, you're going to place it in the top here. So this time we're going to work it into every third stitch, because the row before we did it into every second stitch. So this one's into every third, so that's the first one. So it's 1/2 double crochet into this one. Into the next stitch, because that's going to be our third, we're going to work an increase. So start again, so 1, into the next stitch, 1, into the third stitch, an increase. That's 1, into the next stitch, that's 1, into the next stitch, an increase. So repeat that around into every third stitch, work an increase. Come up to the end of the row, you've ended on an increase, and that will remind you that if you've done it right or not, because you'll be ending on an increase. So what we want to do now is we are going to grab our yarn, so grabbing the stitch marker yarn, putting it to the back. So this is a lot easier than having to move a stitch marker. I find it a lot easier. It's a lot quicker off camera, obviously, but we're going to do 1/2 double crochet into the next stitch. And of course, if you're using your stitch marker, you're going to place it back up into the top here. And see how the stitch marker's like that, that's fine, because we can just pull it out at the end, that's okay. So before we did it into every third stitch, our increase, and now we want to do it into every fourth. And each row, as we go along, will be, the next one will be in the 5th, the next one will be in the 6th, and so on. So we've got 1, 2, 3, into the 4th stitch, we're going to work 2 half double crochets. So into that one, that's 1, 1, and 1. Into the 4th stitch, it's 2. So in the next one, that's 1, 1, 1, and into the next one, it's 2. And repeat this all the way around until we get back to the stitch marker again. So I'm up to the end of my row, and I ended on an increase. Now, to make a hat that's going to fit you, and especially if it's for someone else, as long as we know the head measurement, we can make a hat that's probably going to fit. Like, it's not 100%, it's not going to be the exact measurement, but it's going to get you really, really close. So I have my trusty piece of paper with all my measurements on it, and these are guides for age groups. So you've got newborn, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12, 12 to 3 years, 3 years old to 10 years old, a teenager, and an adult. And some adults do have bigger heads than 58 centimeters. Oops. I will put a link below in the description box that will take you to a size chart that I have on my website, so that you can print off your copy and keep it as reference. But all we need to know is the circumference of the head. Now, I'm making this for a what is this, 4-year-old. So he's in this category, 3 to 10-year-old. And it's about 50 centimeters, and I actually know his head measurement is 50 centimeters, so that's going to fit. Yeehaw. So what we need to do is measure across the hat, multiply that number by 3.14, and this is what our circumference is going to turn out to be. So we grab our tape measure, and we grab the crown that we've made so far, and we lay it as flat as we can get it. And then we measure across. Now this is going to work with inches as well, so it's the exact same formula, you'll just have a different number. So across here, which is the diameter, I'm thinking. Pretty sure it's the diameter. So measure across your hat anyway. So it's through the center of your hat. And I have 12 centimeters. So get your calculator. 12 centimeters times 3.14 equals 37.68. So we're going to round it up. So it's 38 centimeters. I've got to get mine to 50. So I know I have to increase a lot more. But let's just say we were going to be making it for, let's just say a newborn. So it's 37 centimeters. So 38 centimeters is almost going to fit a 3 to 6 month old. So once you get to your measurement, and don't forget that your hat will stretch a little bit. So if you've got it just a little bit smaller than the actual measurement that you need, it will be fine because it will stretch. But of course, if it's a baby, it won't matter if it's a little tiny bit too big because babies grow very fast. So I need 50 centimeters. So another way you can work it out, and I hope this bit doesn't confuse you, if you already know your head circumference, so I know mine's 50. If you divide that by 3.14, this measurement, so 15.9, so we'll say 16 centimeters, is how big you want this across here. So, and that's what I need. So I need that to be 16 centimeters. And what do we say? It was 12. Yeah. So I need to increase mine until it's a lot bigger. To where my fingers are here. I need to increase it out. So I've got a few more rows to go. So let's see how we do the next rows. So what did we do on the row before? We have an increase, 1, 2, 3, increase. So this one, we're going to grab our stitch marker, pull that around. And we do this each row so that we know where we're up to. Going to half double crochet into the first stitch. And if you're using this stitch marker, you're going to place it into the top up there. So we've got 1, 2, 3. How many did I say I needed? So I got 3 on the previous row, so I need 4 in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Into that 5th stitch, we're going to work our increase. So 1 by itself, 1 by itself, 1 by itself. In the next stitch, which is the 5th stitch, we're going to work an increase. Over the next 4 stitches, we're going to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch. Into the next one, we're going to work an increase. And we're going to repeat this all the way around until we get back to our stitch marker. So did you end on an increase? I did, so I know I did it right. So grabbing your stitch marker, putting it to the back. And you probably already know what the next lot of rounds are going to be if you need to do more increasing, but I'm going to show you just one more time. Half double crochet into the next stitch. If you're using the other stitch marker bobby pin, you're going to put it into that stitch here. So because we had 1, 2, 3, 4 in between our increases, we're going to need 5 in between our increase. That's 1. So over the next, from the stitch marker over the next 5 stitches, we will work 1 half double crochet. So we've done 1. So that's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Into the 6th stitch, we're going to work an increase. over the next 5 stitches, we're going to work 1 half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and increase, and we're going to repeat this all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an increase. Repeat this all the way around until we get back to the stitch marker. If you need to do more increase rounds, I'll show you the next round, and then if you need to do more after that, I'm sure you've got the idea. So move your stitch marker if you've got your yarn into the next stitch. If you've got your clip-on one, clip it into that stitch there. So into the next, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into the next 6 stitches. We've already done 1, so it'll be into the next 5. We need to do 1 stitch. 2, 3. Into the next one, we're going to work a increase. Into the next 6 stitches, we're going to work 1 half double crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to work an increase. You're going to repeat that all the way around until you get back to your stitch marker. And don't forget, as you go, measure across, maybe do it every second row just to see where you're up to. And once you get to the size you need, then we're going to start onto the sides of our work. So I'm just going to pull that out because I don't actually need to do another row of increasing for this hat. And what we need to do when we get to the size that we need is just work 1 half double crochet in every single stitch and just keep going. And you're going to keep going until you have the length that you need. So you're going to keep going and going. 1 half double crochet in every single stitch. So no increasing at all anymore, because now we've created the top of our hat, which is here, and it will start to slightly curve over. Mine actually does slightly curve in. Yours may do it a little bit more than mine, or you might even lay flat. If your hook's a little bit bigger than mine, it may actually lay flat. But as we continue on, the sides will start to come up. Okay, so we're going to continue this until we get back to the stitch marker. So once we get back to the beginning, this is where we start making the length of our hat. So putting your stitch marker through. If you find that your stitch marker's got too short, you can always pull this out, because if your stitches marker comes out of stitches down here, it really doesn't matter because you've already finished. So you could pull this stitch marker up and use it. So you've got the length up here, but if you haven't got the length down at the back here, it really doesn't matter, because you don't, only stitch we're marking is actually just here. This one is just there because it was from the previous rows. We don't actually need those ones anymore. So after you've done that, we're going to put our stitch marker to the back, and we're going to work a half double crochet in the next stitch. If you're using your normal stitch marker, bobby pin or clip it into here. And from now on, we work a half double crochet into every stitch, and we keep continuing this for the length of our hat. And in the description box below the video, so down here under the video, there'll be a more info box. You'll see a link to my website and everything, but I'm going to put a link in there to hat sizes, and this will give you ideas on the length if you don't know what lengths to make your hats for watch 8, which age group. So we continue this, and every row after this is exactly the same as the last row that we just did. So I'm going to continue on off camera, because you don't want to sit there for the rest of the rows, because that would be boring. And I will catch up to you when we have the length of our hat done. So happy stitching until we get to there. Once we get to the length that we need, I've already taken my stitch marker out. What we need to do is into the next stitch work a single crochet, and into the next one we're going to work a slip stitch, and we're going to work a chain and then pull out like that one. Pull tight to secure that down, and that is the end of our hat. So this hat does finish off on a slant, but that is because it's worked in a spiral, so we don't join at the end of our rows. Then we're going to grab our yarn needle, turn it to the inside of the hat, and then work it through some stitches. So work it through until you've done at least 2 inches of yarn. Cut off your yarn so you can't see it, and that is your finished hat.